So how did you get into remote viewing from just having these dreams and kind of psychic experiences growing up? And that's okay if it's a long story because we got time here.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no hard stop here today, so I'm happy to talk until I get hoarse here. But I think that my exposure to remote viewing was pretty much like a lot of Americans, where it was late night talk show, right? The Art Bell show was going on in mid '90s, and back when I was younger, I was willing to not go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, but stay up and listen to it a little bit longer. And he had some of the Army remote viewers that would appear as guests on the show, like Ed Dames and Lynn Buchanan and Paul Smith and Joe McMoneagle, and I would listen to some of those. And of course, Ed Dames was always considered like the doom and gloom sort of remote viewer who seemed to always show up with the latest disaster that he was trying to talk to everybody about. And the time would come and go and nothing would happen. And so I was like, I don't know if I necessarily believe everything that he's saying, but there was one time when Art Bell mentioned that he had tried remote viewing and it worked for him. And something about that made it sound like, well, that sounds like it's legitimate that he actually tried it. And then a guest like Joe McMoneagle would come on and talk about things, and I would learn a little bit about some of his background. He earned a Legion of Merit from the Army.
Yeah.
And that is a very rare, very highly prized award that they don't just give away to anybody. So the fact that he earned something like that immediately caught my attention. Like you said, I'm a Navy veteran. I understand how certain things work. And then the fact that the Army would be involved in this at all, right? I had spent 4 years in the Navy. I knew how conservative the military was. Everybody's looking out for their own career, and nobody wants to cross any lines that would discourage them, I guess, or keep them from being promoted. But here's the Army with this unit that was doing psychic stuff, right? And I looked into it, and some of the documents were out there. The CIA, I think, already posted some of these things on the website. It had gotten declassified, and I said, you know what? There's got to be something to this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you are familiar with the whole story about how the unit got started, but there was a real concern because the Soviets at the time were pouring all kinds of money into this research. And the American intelligence community knew that they would not be throwing this kind of money at anything unless it was doing something for them, right?
Right.
So it sort of became like a psychic arms race where we had to get a team to figure out what they could see. I think that was the idea. It was sort of like, we call it like comment or something, communications intelligence, where you're trying to see where the leaks are happening. So that was really how it all got started. They wanted to get a group of people who were psychic together in the unit and see what our exposure was, basically.
Right.
So that caught my attention, and then I live in North Carolina. I happened to go to a workshop that Joe McMoneagle gave at the Rhine Research Center, which is just down the road in Durham, and it was a weekend workshop. So it wasn't like officially formal training or anything, but it was enough to really just blow my mind away, because he gave us a number of targets, and they were in this double wrapped opaque envelopes. And all of a sudden I was, sketching things and writing things that I knew I hadn't seen before. And once you realize that you can do something like that, there's no going back. There's no going back to say, oh yeah, that's all just nonsense. But I mean, when it's staring you right in the face, you go, my goodness, I can't believe that I knew something that I had no physical way of knowing. So it's totally mind blowing.
Yeah. And Joe McMoneagle, he's somebody I just am going through and almost done with his personal biography, his autobiography. And it's so amazing. And he doesn't even scratch the surface in there about, he just says, I did a series on Japanese television and da-da-da. And he barely touches on it in a paragraph. But the truth is that guy did remote viewing on live TV, basically on a news channel, looking for missing persons, and had a really high success rate. Now, the thing about remote viewing is it isn't 100% perfect, but at the same time, nothing is. It doesn't matter how good of an expert you are. In science, to be statistically significant, you only have to have results that come back over 20%. And there's friends of ours, Mark, that have remote viewing records that are over 80% accurate at this point. It blows my mind. And Joe McMoneagle is one of those people, like you said, he's been given awards because he's found missing persons. He's worked in counterterrorism cases. He's found kidnapped and abducted people and been critical in helping rescue those people when they had no idea where they'd been taken. It's very fascinating. So, Mark, have you done anything with your psychic abilities or remote viewing professionally? Or are you working or involved with any groups that are doing it right now?
Well, I've kind of played around with remote viewing, I think, since that workshop back in 2006. I have taken basic CRV training from Paul Smith, and I've done training, like I said, a workshop with Joe McMoneagle, and also a week-long training with Angela Thompson Smith. And actually, I have a session from that that I'd be happy to show you if you're interested. But
yeah,
I don't consider myself to be an operational remote viewer, because I think that it requires a track record of really being committed to that. And I'm the kind of guy who is into so many different things. I have not honestly carved out the time to sit down and practice, because that's the thing that is the only thing you can do, honestly, to make yourself a better remote viewer. It's just all practice and learning how your mind works. So there haven't been any cases where I've been invited in to work things, but honestly, I'm open to it. And I hope one day to do some operational work.
So, Mark, you've got, you said you've got some things that you could share with us, maybe some remote viewing sessions that you've got that you could share.
Yeah.
And then also you mentioned before the show that you might even have a little remote viewing session or experiment for people that watch this video to try at home, or some recommendations for people to get started. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. Let's go ahead and spring this on everybody.
Yeah,
anybody who's watching.
Let's have some fun. So that's the one thing, is that everybody, Mark, I think they have two responses. They either go, nah, and they just think it's bull crap. You know, they just scoff it off and they just ignore it like it's kooky woo-woo. Or they immediately say, okay, well then read my mind. And they think that you're like some kind of a circus freak. They don't understand the methodology and the modality behind it. They don't understand the double blind method and how you can't just sit down and do it for yourself, just like that. So yeah, you're going to take us through that and kind of break down some of those barriers. I'm super excited to do this right now.
All right. So I'm going to show everybody this. I have